Good morning. Thank you for hearing from me. My name is Catherine Cooper. I appear today on behalf of the New Hampshire Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. We have several objections to this piece of legislation. The first being on page 10, section 4 includes a provision to essentially increase the penalties for anything involving a second offense that relates to this provision. We oppose that because of the mass incarceration problem that we have in the country and in the state, and there is no basis that's really rational for increasing penalties just because it's part of this. If the person commits a crime, they should be charged with the crime and the level of offense that they commit the crime for. Second, this is a very difficult bill to kind of hash out how it would come to play in real life. You're talking about a person who's vulnerable and by definition in the bill is unable to manage personal home financial affairs in their own best interest. So the likelihood of a person like that actually bringing a petition like this on their own is highly unlikely. I mean, by definition, they're having a hard time making decisions like this. Several parts of the bill are also very concerning for that reason. For example, on page 4, line 19, it allows the court to give exclusive control of any animals to the person, to the plaintiff, the person who is by definition incapable of making decisions on their own. So as a devoted animal lover, I have a very big problem with leaving animals in the care of someone who by definition isn't even able to take care of themselves. I also do have concerns about the fact that there are significant items of property, including the home. I mean, many times these kinds of situations involve spouses. So what this is doing is allowing the court, without even using the rules of evidence and in a preliminary hearing, to kick a spouse out of their own home, unless it's exclusively owned by them, which it's extremely rare circumstance that a long-time married couple, only one of them actually owns the home. So the person who's accused of abuse could be completely ousted from their home. Also, it takes the car away, which if your decision making is that poor, perhaps you shouldn't be driving either. So there are a lot of just real nuts and bolts problems that I see with the implementation of this bill in a real-time setting. I understand that there are absolutely occasions where elderly and mentally disabled people are taken advantage of. I don't think that this structure is absolutely. I don't think that the way this bill is structured is the best way to go about dealing with that problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Currently, doesn't the court have the authority to appoint a guardian for such a person?
Yes.
Isn't that sufficient? In most cases?
I think in most cases it probably is, and even talking about the Portsmouth case, that ended up being a major piece of litigation in the civil context, but that woman herself, knowing quite a bit about that case, would never have gone to the court. I mean, she loved those guys. So, there is an entire process for dealing with wills and trusts and how those decision-making processes are made that take place in civil court and have a long-standing history and process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one fast one.
Yeah.
Thank you. So let's say a parent, one parent's gone and the other parent's still living in the home, but a child is listed on the house. I've seen that a lot. As they get older, the parent. And for some reason, the parent says, you know what, I don't like where you're going in your life, so I'm going to remove you out of this situation. Could the child file this against the parent at that point to protect their assets?
I mean, if the child fit under the definition of vulnerable, then they could.
No, against the parent.
Right, but maybe I'm not understanding your question, but it seems to me like you're posing the question if the child is losing the rights in the ownership of the house.
Yes.
Well, they would,
try to protect their assets and file one of these.
they could only file it if they were considered to meet the definition of vulnerable.
Okay. Thank you.
Lieutenant Hughes?
Yes, do you have a similar set of issues with the domestic violence protection order in your house?
I do have a lot of issues with many aspects of that statute, yes.
Thank you.
Croc TV.